right, and he was just saying that they've got a team which is a number of people coming back, so it's difficult to know sort of what their number one team is at the moment. Do you expect whoever plays to have a major reaction to what went on at Saracens?
Yes. Yeah, I think they're a pretty proud club, and with what they achieved last year, they want to ensure and send a message out that that was a one-off.
So how dangerous does that make them? Because obviously they don't become a bad team overnight, but that was some performance from Saracens.
Yeah, they're very dangerous. Like, I don't want to be carte blanche. Any team in the comp is pretty dangerous when you're not on it. I'm not saying Leicester weren't on it. They did some uncharacteristic things in terms of the strategy and how many times they kicked. For example, they're well known for a kick meters team, and they kicked half as much against Saracens than they have in the other games that they've won. So I can only imagine them, without trying to be over smart, is that they'll go back to what works for them.
What worked for them last season revolved around the guys now with you, George. How much of a help has George been in the build-up to this one?
He's to give us some insight as to how they used to operate. We've had Wayne Hoyle in the background whispering in my ear, dislocated expectations. You can pin too much on assumption of how they are going to play. But we certainly have an insight as to their old mentality and how they went about it tactically. And for that, we're very grateful.
Can you just talk a bit about, we talked to you after the match about Rob Dupree's confidence at the moment. He's playing as well as he has done for you, isn't he?
He has, yeah. He's brilliant, and he's in good flow. So I've got a cup of tea booked in with him this week, just to touch base. Sometimes you only end up speaking to players when things are going wrong and you want to improve them or kind of get a rise out of them. But we decided that it's important just to try and have a brew and see what's going right. And I haven't had that cup of tea yet, so I can't really tell you. I'm conscious of saying the wrong thing and talking him out of his flow. But he's in every facet of the game. He's performing. Like, his defence is strong. Got a couple of turnovers. His decision making is brilliant. He's driving at the line in attack really well. So we're very lucky to have him such good form. Even with George in the wings, we're very lucky.
He's playing as he did when he first came over, before he went back to South Africa and came again for a longer contract. He arrived playing like this, so it must be something to do with confidence, because he seemed to dip a little bit, didn't he? His kicking wasn't as good as it is at the moment. He looks like he won't miss.
It's all connected, isn't it? Particularly with confidence players, which everyone is really, but fly halves and Rob in particular.
And of the dynamic of the three of them, is he the daddy of the three?
I'd say he has seniority, yeah, just through age. Yeah, but Dan, there's a well-established mutual respect there amongst the three. And I've seen them all take charge in different aspects and at different times, but I think he's more the go-to as the elder brother, yeah.
And is Dan okay for this weekend?
Yeah.
And in terms of disappointment, Rafi, are we any nearer?
He's up for selection, Chris, so
hooray.
Pull from that what you will.
You've been careful with him, haven't you?
Yeah, as you have to be, really careful.
Can you explain exactly why, the type of injury that you have been more careful?
Raf is quite a highly strung, extremely motivated individual. We've talked about this before, and these lads have a habit of perhaps doing too much. You have to kind of look after him, pull him back a little bit more until he understands himself, how he can keep himself on the field. He tore his hamstring off his bone, and so there's some scar tissue around the operation that he had to make sure that it is just scar tissue and not micro tears. And within that, he managed to stub his toe doing some static skills in the pre-season that's waylaid in 2 weeks. So that's you just can't. That's one of those black swan things you just can't predict for. So that waylaid his loading and we wanted to get his loading up to a certain level so he's robust enough if he has to come on, if he is selected on the bench, to play 70 minutes. You know, he has to be able to have that workload in him and not get re-injured. So it's not just a case of, you know, sticking someone like him on the bench or starting him and letting him play for 30. There's always that possibility he could play for longer. So we're almost overcompensating for worst case scenario with Rafi.
Lovely. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, Chris.
Afternoon, Alex. How are you?
I'm very well, Kieran. What wisdom do you have for us today? You generally tell me a thing or two on these.
It was a dream debut on Saturday for Joe Carpenter. You look like a proud father when you're being interviewed after the game on Saturday. How, obviously, we knew pre that game that he was a talented, high potential player. How excited are you about what's to come with Joe?
The interconnect, I've just missed some of that, Kieran. Just to repeat the question, how excited am I?
Do you want to repeat that?
Yeah, please. The internet connection was unstable. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying, how excited are you about him going forward as well? Not just one-off game, but going forward with Luke James obviously out for a little period. He's going to get a run of games. How excited are you? Not just, I suppose, for the coming months, but the coming years as well.
Yeah, really excited. I get on a level of excitement. It's important to like keep a lid on it a bit because he is still young and it is just one game. And so we have a duty of care to manage him like we have our other young lads. And I think it's improbable to think that he's just going to go through the season now and perform at that level every game because of the mental and physical strain that the Premiership puts on these lads. But we know it's in him now, don't we? Like we all know, we've all seen it. You can't put the cat back in the box. It's out the box. And for him to get that man in the match, like I was proud, but his actual dad was there as well, and he was really, really proud. So that's a perk of the job, that, isn't it? When you get to give someone an opportunity, who we've all known, who's watched Sale FC, who have been involved in the organisation, that there was a real talent there for a year and a half. Just through misfortune and lack of opportunity, he hasn't been able to showcase it. So long may it continue. Yeah, I think we've got a real player in our hands, and it only gets more difficult for these lads as people understand what they're about. But there's more to come.
The final day of the 3-day England training camp. Have you had any communication with Eddie Jones during that period, with England through that period? Because I'm sure, I think I intimated this last week, that there will be an anxiety amongst the Sale fans about, in particular, Manu not coming back with an injury. Have you had any communication? Can you kind of put minds at rest, saying that there's not been any injuries picked up?
I have had no communication because I think they're still probably training. This is the big day right now. But no news is good news, Kieran. So I'm expecting that we get all our lads back in fine fettle and good health.
Going back to one of the questions Chris asked about Rob Duprea and the confidence he's playing with, I think Chris was absolutely right. It's probably his peak period was that loan spell during 18-19. Where he kind of took real control with AJ and against the out injured. Is there anything you said to him during pre-season, knowing that George is out until December? Was there anything you specifically said to him or conversations you had that saying you're going to be given the 10 shirt, you're going to be given the keys for the next few months, that you feel has been important in unlocking that confident Rob Duprea that we've seen at the start of this season?
Not intentionally, Kieran. I've had a lot of small conversations to improve our relationship, and one of those was just after every session, actually going up to him and getting a hot debrief off him, like his feeling of how he performed, so we can get some kind of consistency. And because some people just, do the session, tick the box and go home. Not Rob, he's not like that, but so we're both on the same page as to how he's performing in training, and that's gone on for a while now. But so not No, I don't, and I wouldn't give that assurance to any player. They've got my backing, and I believe in them, but you can't guarantee someone a shirt. I think it probably invites complacency and that kind of star culture, where that one person becomes bigger than the team and the collective effort. So it's that isn't a tactic I go down, but trying to get the best out of him, spend as much time with him as possible. I have done, yeah.
Ben Curry went off with an ankle injury on Saturday. What's the latest on him and other players coming back? Nick Schonet's back from suspension this week, and then you mentioned Rafi being back. Is that it in terms of players who are out that weren't available on the weekend that now are available this weekend?
Yes, you got it. That's it.
Is Ben Curry fit?
Ben Curry's training tomorrow, yeah, for Thursday, so he's up for selection, yeah.
Just one final one for me. You mentioned last Thursday you were having a recruitment succession meeting. How did that go?
Really well, really positive, and a bit of an eye-opener for me. It feels like we can do what we want to. Well, you can't do exactly what you want to do, but we feel like we have the resources to keep the core of these young lads together, the core of this young northern talent together, with a little sprinkle of South African stardust in there, to take us through for the next at least 3 or 4 years, if not longer. They're always exciting, those meetings. They're exciting because you get to be rugby manager for a day, you know, and look at figures and players and squads. And then the reality of it is the people's lives, careers. So the day after, you're like, well, that could be the case, but what's going to keep the heart of the place as well? So there's an ethical reflection that you have to put on the back of those kind of meetings.
Just a quick final one. What is the situation with the contracts with the Dupree twins? Are they contracted through currently just to the end of this season, or are they contracted beyond this season?
It's their option after this season, a 2-year option, and I can just say that those negotiations with them are going very positively and healthily.
Okay, terrific. Well, I'm sure that, because there's been a lot of kind of nervous anxiety as to where they're going to stay, when rumours are circling about the moving to France, so I'm sure that the fans would be happy to hear that they're positive, that the talks.
The positive, yeah, and you can see that in the performances, couldn't you? But that's all I can stipulate on now, because otherwise we get into the realms of warmongering like a lot of agents, and I'm not going to go down that route.
Cheers, Alex. Thank you.
Cheers, Kim.
Alex, can I just ask you about Carpenter? Started off with rugby at West Park in Brammer. That's Lancaster's club. Do you know if they cross paths?
I haven't asked him on that one. Yeah, I'll pick that up with him. I know he's a Yorkie lad, and he was up for tender to every organisation at 18, and we were the lucky ones to get him. But yeah, I wasn't sure if Lanny had coached him.
Yeah, and the other one, talking about some links and family links. You know, the Priya lads. I mean, they've got a famous father. I mean, did they ever talk about their father? I mean, I guess he was probably out of playing Test rugby before they were born. Did they ever talk about him?
Yeah, quite a bit. Because I ask about the family quite a lot. I think it's important, isn't it? To understand how they are and how they're feeling. And because they're such a tight family unit as well, if there's any kind of disruptions or heartache on that side, then it's going to ebb into the rugby. They're still very close. For the most part, his dad lives over in Italy. They've got a spot in Italy. So he comes across to watch them.
This season?
Yeah, he has. He's been over. He comes over quite a lot. He's come over because they've all had babies. All 3 of them had little babies. They're all within 6 months old. So there's been a lot of to and fro with the family to coo over the sprogs. I've invited him. I've invited him in to come and have a chat about rugby, because he's still a coach, and you know, like you say, he's got some decent experience and knowledge there. But for his own part, he's kept his distance purposefully so because he wants it to be about me and his lads, not me and him and his lads. I don't mind. Like, for me, knowledge is power and it's better to share, but I think he's wanting to enjoy it a bit more and take a bit more of a standoffish approach and influence to his lads' careers.
Great, thanks. That's all from me.
Cheers, Martin.
Cheers,
thank you, mate.
Alex, Liam here, how are you doing?
I'm good, Liam. How are you getting on?
All good, yeah, good to see you. Johnny Hill, he's started twice for you guys now before heading off there to
Yep.
England camp, especially against Exeter last Saturday. You just couldn't describe, put into words his past 2 months at the club, just settling in there and becoming part of the furniture very quickly there.
I've used this one before. I'm off to watch Morrissey later, like hand in glove, I would say. It's such a... And I can't believe how quickly he assimilated himself with the team. He has got a mate in Tom Curry, a really good mate. But he did all the work behind the scenes in terms of the line-out calling, but not once did he interject in a meeting. Just sat there, watched, observed. He's quite quiet-natured in his approach and his ability to influence. He's not a shouter. He's very composed and very calm, and that in itself, I think, lends itself to being accepted because he's not coming in talking about the world according to Johnny Hill. He's come in and almost lionessed himself into it. You know what I mean? Like, he's coming through the back door, and as such, they've really accepted him. And then there's his talent. Like, they've all got respect because of how hard he works, which is really hard, and how athletic he is. So, yeah, he's well and truly part. I wouldn't say part of the furniture, but it's part of the fabric. And I've said this before as well, those two lads are two of the best socialites that I've happened to meet in the game. Like, even before they signed, they were sending me pictures and texts of them out on the lash, which they do now, I think, just to piss me off. So every time they go out, they send me a text at like 2 a.m. That in itself helps to break down barriers, doesn't it? Like, there's a psychological safety there with me, so I'm sure he's got that with the lads.
Okay, just with regard to the line-out calling, did he call the line-out at Exeter, or is that a new responsibility for him at Sale?
Yes and yes. He was getting into it at Exeter. He's doing it with England, and he's our key chief caller here. Although it's a group thing, Liam. So it's never really one person. I mean, Lewitt used to do it like that. Lewitt wanted the reins and wanted to be the man, and that's fine. But once he goes, then everyone else is less skilled. So my own understanding is you're better to have a bit of a syndicate, really, 4 or 5 with a couple of young lads in that talk on a Sunday, that look over the clips, that send email trails, meet on the Monday morning, and then you finalise that line-out bank for like 10 o'clock Monday morning. So he kind of facilitates that going into each and every week. As he was this week on his way down to England, he's watching clips in Tom Curry's car and sending comments through.
Okay, just finally on Johnny, the age he's at now, he's got a lot of experience under his belt. Is that experience, is he passing that on in a really useful way now?
Yeah.
The youngsters coming through there, the young guys you have in your pack?
Yeah, to us and youngsters. So he wasn't involved, obviously, through the pre-season, but him, George and Tom, which is really rewarding, saying, look, we want to give you our observations from the different organisations they've been in. So they were reaching out to me, of which we implemented it, in a few ways, which has pushed our game on, as you've seen. They're all another, and George is the same. Like, so Kieran Wilkerson played his first Prem Cup game the other day. He was a young fly half, and by his own admission, didn't have the best of games. There's a few things that went wrong, and we had all his clips lined up for him. And I just said to George, do you mind having a chat to him? George went and found him, organised the meeting, sat down, went through his clips, and the feedback he got was so much more insightful than what he would have got off us. We were talking decision-making and execution in our summary, and George is like, I saw you lose your confidence after that second kick in 10 minutes. I saw your head drop. So he talked more about the belief, the body language, the confidence that helps you drive those decent decisions. That's just one example, and Johnny's the same. So they're as good a players they are, and we're getting more out of those individuals than what I expected we would.
Okay, I'll just change the topic then, final topic. the game coming up against Leicester, they were your first opponents when you took over the job, and you went down there and you beat them at Welford Road. I'm just wondering, how important is it for you now that it is your squad, it is Alex Sanderson's team? You started the season brilliantly, 3 wins out of 3. What sort of a feather in a cap and a step forward would it for you guys to go down there and get another win at Welford Road?
It's a strong message, isn't it? It really is. And we weren't that far off last year, if I'm honest. Looking back at it, it's a big challenge, though, isn't it? It's kind of the biggest of challenges to get off the start that we've had and then maintain that kind of intensity that we've had. But then it's, you know, at the end of the day, it's just another week. Like we haven't won anything. If we just beat Leicester, it's just a really good result on the road. And we want to make every week special, Liam. Like every week seem like a cup final week. These kind of weeks make it easier for that to happen, don't they? These kind of weeks where you face the champions on their mid-in, they're the special games, and they have their own gravitas, their own weight, and rightly or wrongly, as a result, we're probably going to enjoy it or loathe it, depending on the outcome.
Has your pal at Mark McCall given you the blueprint to go and do a number of them?
I can think maybe back in the day he would, but we're a little too close in competition, aren't we, in competitive terms, for him to pick up the phone.
What Sanderson did at the weekend against them, you know.
Yeah, whether he knows this or not, like I spoke to Peely after the game, Ian Peel, their forwards coach, and had a little chat to him about what happened. But you know, like what Chris said at the start, the Leicester side that everyone saw last weekend will not be the Leicester team in terms of personnel or strategy that plays this weekend. We're fully aware of that.
Okay, best of luck with it, Alex, man. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Liam. Cheers, mate.
Alex, I'll jump in with one real quick.
Yeah.
The Worcester situation.
Right.
Have you got space or inclination to bring in any of those players if and when those opportunities arise?
A tiny bit, not a lot, Charlie, honestly, not a lot of space. And
inclination?
Some, because we've had a couple of injuries and, bad ones through the pre-season, so there's a necessity for numbers, particularly going through the autumn internationals, and this was raised in the succession meeting. The caveat to that is, like, if it's going well, and it is going well, do you want to rock the boat? If we do get them, some of these lads on a short-term loan, and they get through administration, they take all that intellectual property with them, up towards Christmas. So I think you've got to look through these things. You have to really consider these things, not just what's sparkling and shiny right now, but the knock-on effects it could have.
When was the succession meeting? Sorry.
Oh, we had it last Thursday, last Friday. Yeah. We have them every 6 weeks, these things, because the climate changes, quite regularly. Cheers, thanks lads.